Hey, Halagobe here. You might have noticed those free 6-star weapon selector boxes, and you might have not known what to get. You get one after 40 pulls on the beginner banner, but a completely new one later on at level 45. That's 10 different weapons to think about, and with a very diverse roster that's completely unique on a per account basis, it's very tricky to figure out what to pick. Well, let's try and fix that. Starting with the beginner box, where we have Oblivion, Thundered Prince, Thermite Cutter, Former Finery, and Valiant. I'm not going to yap about what they do too much, but I'll tell you why they're good, and I'll tell you if they straight up just suck. I won't pretend they're good alternatives for characters when they aren't. Oblivion First is an arts damage dealer arts unit, focusing fully on the arts damage dealt stat line, which just means any elemental damage, so not physical. Now, if we look at our arts unit roster, we have Antal, Ardelia, Gilberta, Palika, and Jaihi. The only one that can do substantial damage here is Palika, and on a lot of her teams she can end up helping the team more by equipping buffing arts units. If you want to focus on a Palika DPS thingy, you can get it, and if you want to hold it for a future intellect DPS arts unit character, then just hold it because it has an insane stat line. But I think this is a skip for 1.0 characters. On Palika and Electric teams, I'd much rather use Wild Wanderer or Detonation Unit as they boast higher overall team damage than running Oblivion for her damage. And Detonation Unit is literally in the level 45 box instead. In any other team, she can run Stanza of Memorials to buff the team as well, so you have 3 fantastic options that are better than this. Then we have Sundered Prince, which is an attack percent heavy greatsword with critical rate and some bonus stagger. Unfortunately, most of its effects require you to be on field, which is kind of annoying due to greatsword users having the longest animation frames for their basic attack sequences. And this is purely for damage, so only really for Depan and Last Right. But critical rate is bad in this game unless you're named Yvonne right now, and so the weapon comes out kind of weak. For Last Right, she can use Seeker of Darklong as a 5-star alternative to Sundered Prince, and it beats it out in damage if you either work around the energy to hit a crazy breakpoint, or you don't run her as the main field because she's slow as hell. And for Depan, the later free selector box has a much better weapon for him designed around his kit. And then the rest of the greatsword users aren't really built for damage. It is just generically good for any greatsword DPS that you want to run on field, so you can grab it for that, I guess. But it's a skip from me, especially because of the next weapon. So probably the only super good weapon here is Thermite Cutter. It works on every single SP recovering sword user in the game. How convenient! Arknight Alesh Akakuri and Pogranishnik are all SP recovering sword users. Remember, recovering SP is not refunding SP, so this won't work on effects like Administrator's Potential 1 that refunds SP. Anyways, we can get a team-wide and easily accessible 16% attack buff from equipping this sword on them, attack percent being one really strong stat as of 1.0. You guys might not understand how good this weapon is, but would you rather a second to third best in slot greatsword on 2 DPS characters? Or would you rather a best in slot to second best in slot sword on 4 supportive characters? And it doesn't even hurt their damage that much thanks to giving the wearer, outside of the team-wide attack buff, another insane 55% attack. Remember, the main attribute is not always the most important thing, especially when it comes to more supportive characters. This is by far the best pickup in my opinion. You'd only ignore it if you don't play any Vanguards, I guess. Then Former Finery is the sustaining version of Sundered Prince. Here we have an option for Ember, for Snowshine, for Catcher. You do not pick Sundered for them unless you want to run damage Ember, I guess. Despite Snowshine's main attribute being strength, her healing scales on only will, so building for strength does pretty much nothing on her. And let's be real, defenders won't be realistically topping the DPS charts in this game, so Former Finery's will stat is much better for what she wants to do. So if you want your Snowshine or Ember or Catcher to sustain your team better, this is a fine pick. I don't think they suffer without it though, and they have 5-star and other 6-stars that work too. And finally, Valiant is a physical status focused polearm with a large permanent physical damage and attack stat line. You will need to apply physical statuses to then do more damage, and luckily 2 of our 3 polearm users apply them. This is basically a weaker signature for Li Feng as well as a 6-star alternative for Estella. Li Feng only has Mountain Bearer better, so you can pick this up for him if you lack that, but he's a secondary damage dealer a lot of the time, so losing some damage on him and going a weaker polearm isn't the end of the world. As for Estella, she has a 5-star in OBJ Razorhorn, which is better than Valiant, so you can also completely ignore this on her. Overall, it's a skip unless you really like Li Feng's damage. So Thermite Cutter is the way, with the rest of them being specific to certain characters, sometimes even just one, and not always even top tier. Literally only Palika DPS would use Oblivion right now, and literally only Li Feng would use Valiant, for example. Now the level 45 box, it's a little different. We finally have a hand cannon to choose from. Jet First is a monster stat stick for arts damage users. That's only Aviwenna, but it is by far her best in slot weapon because even her 5-star signature is pretty weak, and then she has nothing really else she can use because Estella and Li Feng took the rest of the polearm budget. But even on Estella, due to it being any main stat and having 39% attack, it beats out anything that isn't OBJ Razorhorn, making it her second best polearm despite literally not using the passive at all. And for Li Feng, this is his third best in slot behind Valiant, but not by much, just because again that main attribute transforms into agility for him, and then 39% attack is OP. If you want a good polearm, I'd rather go for this than Valiant unless you want to prioritize Li Feng. And for Aviwenna lovers, this is a great pickup. White Knight Novanex is an arts intensity focused sword that buffs arts damage dealers that deal combustion or electrification. Out of the roster we have, this is only good for Arknight and Levitain. And when I say good, I mean you'd rather use a 5-star for Arknight in her electric compositions, or heat compositions like with Wolfguard, or you'd rather use the free Thermite Cutter, which is her best in slot weapon for overall team damage in anywhere she goes. And when I say good, I mean usable on Levitain because it is pretty terrible on her and should not be picked. The freemium battle pass is literally free if you save some of your Ori geometry for her, and it gives Umbral Torch. The only reason you wouldn't pick Umbral Torch is because you might want a weapon for Yvonne or Gilberta, but trust me, they are fine without their battle pass ones, especially Yvonne, who can use a weapon literally in this box. So skip this weapon or save this box if you think it'll glow up in the future. Now, if you want a generic weapon just like Thermite Cutter that is absolutely balling, then you can ignore the rest of this box and pick up Detonation Unit. Supportive generic weapons are kinda crazy value rather than focusing on weapons for a couple of gamers. What it does is when the wielder applies an Arts Burst, the enemy will suffer Arts damage taken for 15 seconds. This is a rare and strong buff and works on Antau, Gilberta even, Palika, and Jaihi. Just make sure they apply the second or higher infliction of that type and you'll get great results. Some of them won't always be able to use it if they're reacting, like Gilberta in a lay team, but Gilberta in a nature-focused team in the future can absolutely use it. Now, remember the whole White Knight Nova thing with the lay Battle Pass weapon, but you might want Yvonne or Gilberta's Battle Pass weapon instead? Well, Detonation Unit half solved that for some Gilberta teams, but now we have Wedge, which is pretty much Yvonne's signature dialed down just a little bit. You do not need her Battle Pass one. And I haven't calculated the new Yvonne yet, but I wouldn't actually be surprised if Wedge beat out her Battle Pass one. This weapon oozes arts damage dealt bonuses, and it's not even hard to get the buffs. She applies arts reactions with every battle skill if you play her correctly. So, if you're a crazy gamer that gets Lei and Yvonne but you can't pull signatures for whatever reason, then just get the Battle Pass for Lei and pick up Wedge for Yvonne. If you also pulled Gilberta, she can run other weapons like Stanza of Memorials if you have nothing else. And finally, in this weapon box, we have Exemplar with a massive buff to attack as well as physical damage dealt. This is only built for Japan and I guess DPS catcher with its physical damage bonus focus buffs. But since it has a flat main attribute stat as well as a permanent 39% attack, it is just a stat stick for any greatsword damage dealers. It will also beat out Sundered Prince from its stat line alone, provided you aren't main fielding the greatsword user, as we're looking at 39% permanent attack versus 16% non-permanent attack. The critical rate on Sundered is also just real bad. So Detonation Unit is the way unless you want Wedge for Yvonne, Jet for Aviwenna, or Exemplar for Japan. White Knight Nova is not doing anything crazy for characters yet, but I can see it being really good for actual combustion DPS or electrification DPS or supports in the future. So don't make the wrong choice on these weapons. I'd mostly recommend just getting one choice in each of these boxes, Thermite Cutter and Detonation Unit, only straying away from them for specific characters that you love. I've calculated nearly every character in the game to help inform you guys better, and so with this video, hopefully that work is now helping you guys out. Let me know what you picked or might pick in the boxes. Thanks for watching and have a Guoba day.